Two people can earn the exact same income, live in the same city, and face the same economy. Yet one struggles for years to save even a few $100s. The other seems to build wealth almost effortlessly. At first glance, it looks like a difference in income, but often it isn't. Because one of the most misunderstood truths about money is that the first $1,000 is often harder to save than the next $10,000. That sounds impossible. After all, $10,000 is 10 times more money. Shouldn't that be 10 times harder? Logically, yes. In reality, no. The reason has almost nothing to do with mathematics. It has everything to do with psychology, momentum, habits, and the hidden forces that shape financial behavior. Most people imagine wealth building as a straight line. Save $1,000, then save another $1,000, then another, and eventually you'll reach $10,000. But real life doesn't work like that. The beginning feels more like pushing a stalled car uphill. The first few feet require enormous effort. Your muscles strain. Progress feels painfully slow. You wonder if it's even moving. But once momentum begins, something changes. The same car that felt impossible to move starts rolling. The effort decreases. The movement becomes easier. Money works in a surprisingly similar way. And understanding why could completely change the way you think about building wealth. Because the first $1,000 isn't just money. It's proof. Proof that you can control your finances instead of your finances controlling you. And that proof changes everything. Consider someone we'll call Marcus. Marcus wasn't reckless with money. He wasn't buying luxury watches. He wasn't taking expensive vacations. He wasn't living some extravagant lifestyle. He was simply doing what millions of Americans do. Paying rent, paying for groceries, paying utilities, paying transportation costs, paying insurance, paying for all the ordinary expenses of adult life. Every month his paycheck arrived, and every month it disappeared. Not because he was irresponsible, because there was always something. A car repair, a medical bill, a friend's wedding, a higher than expected utility bill, a subscription he forgot to cancel, a few restaurant meals after a stressful week. Nothing dramatic, nothing outrageous, just enough to keep him from getting ahead. For years, Marcus believed his problem was income. If he could just make a little more money, everything would improve. Then something interesting happened. He received a modest raise, not life-changing, not enough to transform his financial situation. Yet 6 months later, he was in exactly the same position. The extra income had disappeared. Not intentionally. It simply blended into life. And that's when he realized something uncomfortable. The problem wasn't just how much money he earned. The problem was that he had never developed the systems necessary to keep money. This realization points to one of the biggest reasons the first $1,000 is so difficult. Most people are trying to save while operating in financial survival mode. Behavioral economists have spent years studying how scarcity affects decision-making. When money is tight, mental bandwidth shrinks. People become focused on immediate needs. Long-term planning becomes harder. Every financial decision feels urgent. Every expense feels important. The brain prioritizes survival over optimization. In other words, when you're financially stretched, saving money isn't just financially difficult. It's psychologically difficult. Your mind is busy solving today's problems. Saving is a decision made for tomorrow, and tomorrow often loses. This creates a vicious cycle. Without savings, every unexpected expense becomes an emergency. Every emergency destroys progress, and every setback reinforces the belief that saving is impossible. But the first $1,000 begins to break that cycle. Not because $1,000 solves everything. It doesn't. In many parts of America, a single emergency can easily exceed $1,000. The value of the first $1,000 is not its purchasing power. Its value is what it changes psychologically. For the first time, life becomes slightly less fragile. A small financial shock no longer feels catastrophic. You gain breathing room, and breathing room changes behavior. What most people fail to realize is that financial progress accelerates when stress decreases. When every dollar is already assigned to survival, saving feels like sacrifice. But once a small cushion exists, decision-making improves. The emotional pressure begins to decline, and that's where momentum starts. The numbers reveal something surprising. Many people think saving is primarily a math problem. Spend less than you earn. Simple. Yet, if wealth building were purely mathematical, far more people would be wealthy. Knowledge isn't usually the problem. Most people already know they should spend less and save more. The challenge is behavior. Researchers in behavioral finance repeatedly find that people often act against their own financial interests. Not because they're irrational, because they're human. Present rewards are emotionally powerful. Future rewards are abstract. $100 today feels real. A larger savings account years from now feels distant. This tendency is known as present bias. Humans naturally place greater value on immediate gratification than future benefits. The first $1,000 requires overcoming this bias repeatedly. You say no to purchases. You delay gratification. You resist impulses. You tolerate discomfort. And for a long time, it feels like nothing is happening. That's one of the cruelest parts of early saving. The effort appears larger than the reward. Imagine someone who manages to save $50 a week. After 1 month, they have only about $200. After 2 months, around $400. The process feels slow, painfully slow. The brain begins asking a dangerous question. Is this even worth it? Many people quit right there. Not because they can't save, because progress feels invisible. Yet something fascinating happens once the first $1,000 arrives. The saver now has evidence. Evidence that the system works. Evidence that progress is possible. Evidence that they are capable of financial discipline. This may sound insignificant. It's not. Human beings are heavily influenced by identity. People rarely sustain behaviors that conflict with how they see themselves. A person who believes they're bad with money behaves differently from someone who sees themselves as a saver. The first $1,000 often marks the beginning of that identity shift. You're no longer someone trying to save. You're someone who has saved. And that distinction matters more than most people realize. Because identity drives behavior. Behavior drives outcomes, and outcomes reinforce identity. A powerful cycle begins. This is where the difference becomes clear. The first phase of wealth building is about creating capacity. The second phase is about scaling it. Most people focus exclusively on money. Wealthy people often focus on systems. Let's say 2 individuals both save their first $1,000. One views it as the finish line. The other views it as proof of concept. The first person celebrates and slowly returns to old habits. The second person asks a different question. How did I do this? What changed? Which habits created this result? Those questions are important because wealth is often built through repeatable systems. Maybe they automated transfers. Maybe they reduced impulsive spending. Maybe they started budgeting weekly. Maybe they increased income through freelance work. Maybe they negotiated a raise. The specific strategy matters less than identifying what worked. Because once a system exists, it can be expanded. This explains why the next $10,000 often comes faster than expected. The individual is no longer starting from zero. They have habits. They have confidence. They have experience. They have momentum. And perhaps most importantly, they have a reason to continue. Psychologists call this the progress principle. People become more motivated when they can see evidence of advancement. The closer we feel to a goal, the more effort we're willing to exert. The first $1,000 transforms saving from a theoretical concept into a visible achievement. Now the scoreboard is active. Progress becomes measurable. And motivation increases. But there is another reason the next $10,000 becomes easier. One that has nothing to do with psychology. And everything to do with opportunity. When someone has zero savings, every decision becomes defensive. Their focus is avoiding disaster. When someone has $1,000, their focus can slowly begin shifting toward improvement. This subtle difference changes financial outcomes dramatically. Without savings, opportunities are often inaccessible. A training program may be impossible. A business idea may remain unexplored. A certification may feel out of reach. A better job opportunity might require relocation expenses. A side hustle may require startup capital. Savings create options, and options create opportunities. Many people think wealth comes from money. In reality, wealth often comes from opportunities that money allows people to pursue. The first $1,000 can be the bridge between survival and opportunity, not because it makes someone rich, because it increases flexibility. And flexibility is a powerful financial asset. Think about 2 workers. Both earn the same salary. One has no savings. The other has a small emergency fund. A toxic workplace suddenly becomes unbearable. The worker with no savings feels trapped. The worker with savings has choices. Neither person is wealthy, yet one possesses significantly more financial freedom. This is one reason financial experts frequently emphasize emergency funds before investing. Investing is important, but stability comes first. It's difficult to build wealth when every unexpected event knocks you backward. The first $1,000 acts as a shock absorber, and once shocks become less destructive, progress accelerates. There's another hidden factor that often goes unnoticed. The first $1,000 teaches delayed gratification, and delayed gratification is one of the most valuable wealth-building skills in existence. A famous body of research known as the Stanford Marshmallow Experiments explored how individuals respond to delayed rewards. While the findings have been debated and refined over time, the broader lesson remains relevant. The ability to sacrifice smaller rewards today for larger rewards tomorrow plays a major role in long-term outcomes. Financial success frequently follows the same pattern. Every dollar saved represents a decision to prioritize future freedom over immediate consumption. The first $1,000 requires hundreds of these decisions, and every decision strengthens the skill. Eventually, something surprising happens. Saving no longer feels like deprivation. It starts feeling like progress. The emotional reward changes. Instead of feeling excited by spending money, people begin feeling excited by keeping it. That shift sounds small. It's enormous. Because wealth building becomes sustainable only when behavior aligns with emotion. Now let's talk about the practical side. If the first $1,000 is the hardest milestone, how do people actually reach it? The answer is rarely one dramatic action. It's usually several smaller actions combined. First, awareness. Many people cannot explain where their money went last month. Not because they're careless, because modern spending is frictionless. A few dollars here, a subscription there, an impulse purchase online. Money disappears quietly. Tracking expenses often reveals opportunities that were previously invisible. Second, automation. Human willpower is unreliable. Systems are reliable. Automatically moving money into savings reduces the need for repeated decisions. The less often people must choose to save, the more likely they are to succeed. Third, increasing income. Budgeting matters. But income matters too. Sometimes the fastest route to the first $1,000 isn't cutting another expense. It's earning additional money, a temporary side hustle, freelance work, selling unused items, overtime opportunities. Additional income can create momentum much faster than endless cost cutting. Fourth, reducing the size of the goal. This sounds counterintuitive, but focusing on $1,000 can feel overwhelming. Focusing on the next $100 feels manageable. Then the next 100. Then another. Large goals become achievable when broken into smaller victories. And that's important because motivation grows through success, not perfection. Many people abandon financial goals because they believe one mistake ruins progress. A bad month happens, an unexpected expense occurs, savings decrease, and they conclude they've failed. But wealth building isn't linear. Even financially successful people experience setbacks. The difference is that they keep moving. Consistency matters more than perfection. In fact, one of the most dangerous myths in personal finance is the belief that wealthy people never struggle. Most wealth-building journeys contain periods of frustration, mistakes, and slow progress. What separates successful savers isn't flawless execution. It's persistence. They continue after setbacks. They continue after mistakes. They continue after disappointments. And eventually, the compounding effects begin to appear. Not just financial compounding. Behavioral compounding, habit compounding, confidence compounding, opportunity compounding, all working together. This is why the first $1,000 is such a powerful milestone. It isn't impressive because of the amount. $1,000 alone won't change your life. What changes your life is the person you become while saving it. The discipline, the awareness, the patience, the systems, the confidence, the identity. Those assets are often worth far more than the money itself. Because once they're developed, they can be applied again and again to the next $10,000, then $50,000, then $100,000, and beyond. The biggest misconception about wealth is that it begins with large sums of money. It usually doesn't. It begins with evidence. Evidence that you can consistently do something difficult. Evidence that you can make decisions today that benefit your future self. Evidence that you can create momentum where none existed before. And that's why the first $1,000 feels so difficult. You're not merely saving money. You're fighting old habits. You're overcoming present bias. You're building systems. You're developing discipline. You're creating a new identity. You're transforming the way you think about money. Once that transformation occurs, the game changes. The next $10,000 is still work, but you're no longer pushing a stalled car uphill. Momentum is finally on your side, and perhaps that's the most important lesson of all. The first $1,000 isn't valuable because of what it buys. It's valuable because of what it proves. It proves that wealth is not a single event. It's a process built one decision at a time, one habit at a time, $1 at a time. And once you've proven to yourself that you can save the first $1,000, you've already accomplished something much bigger than reaching a financial milestone. You've demonstrated that your financial future can be different from your financial past. And for many people, that's the moment wealth truly begins.